Imagine spending $35,000 on a new roof only to have the negligence of the roofer void the warranty before he's even finished. Let's talk about reasons ventilation is so critical to you and your project. Hello, this is Jim Singletary at RoofSmart. Normally we're talking about the actual roof, but today we're going to talk more about what's under the hood, specifically attic ventilation, what it is, why it matters, and what you should do about it. Let's dive in. Attic ventilation is what allows your roof to breathe. So in the area above your ceiling, you've got this big cavity area, and that's supposed to have air exchange. You're supposed to have air moving through. You have two components. You have your exhaust and you have your intake. So the fresh air comes in down below and it's supposed to exhaust out the top. A straw works really well for the analogy. So, the part that you suck on, that's the exhaust, and then, whatever you're drinking in, that's the intake. So if you have either one of those plugged, the straw just looks like a straw. It's not doing anything. They need to both be open, they need to both be about the same size, and you need to not have anything stuck in the middle of the straw. For that to work, then you have your exhaust that's going to have a certain capacity for how much air it can move. You need to have that same matched capacity for your intake. That sounds good on paper, but when the rubber meets the road, sometimes the house or the building, you just can't get it exactly even. There isn't enough room, for example, or it doesn't make sense, or the architecture doesn't allow for it for some reason or another. If you're going to make a compromise on not being able to reach a 50-50 balance, you would skew it more towards the intake. And that kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like if you're trying to air out a stinky room, you'd rather have more air coming in, right? Rather than a bigger opening to let the air out. Like it doesn't help. You need the fresh. You need the fresh. Why does ventilation matter so much? Why are we talking about it? Why should we care? All right, there's a couple of really important reasons. First, in hot days, it's like having your car parked outside with the windows rolled all the way up in the direct sun all day. How hot does it get in there when it's 90 degrees outside? I used to live in Tucson, Arizona, back when I was a little one. And it was really common that if people did that, if you kept your car outside and you had the windows rolled up, all the upholstery inside would crack and break because it just got so hot. That's what happens to your roof. You're sealing it all up, you're getting all this direct sunlight, and it can't breathe. What that does is it degrades the life of the roof because it can't cool off, it superheats, it starts to break down the shingle, and then everything starts to just slough off. All the asphalt dries off. Basically, your roof gets cut short. It's like smoking for your roof. Second is the moisture element. So if you have all of this moisture, humidity, of course when it's raining outside, that's 100% humidity, and it rains a lot here, so the attic will equalize in humidity with the outside. And then of course you're adding more from underneath. Let's say it's 40 degrees outside or 50 degrees outside, but you've got heat loss coming from the house, right? So now you've got maybe 65, 70 degree air coming up and meeting this 40 degree surface. You get condensation, water. That's going to lead to rotting the roof, warping the deck, crumbling, mold growth, which is kind of a problem because, whenever you look up, there are holes in your ceiling. You've got light fixtures, you've got your HVAC equipment for your furnace or whatever. There are gaps and holes, and so anything that's going on up there filters back down into your living space. And if you or somebody in your household has, breathing problems or seems like they've got some sort of an allergy that won't go away in the winter, it wouldn't be the first time that it was the result of mold in the attic. So that's all stuff that we can fix. It's not to freak you out. It may or may not be a factor for you, but that's one of the reasons we care. Third big reason we care. It voids your roof warranty. They all have in there, if it's not ventilated to current code, then they may not honor it. And so you'll often hear people talk about these roofs that are 50 years or lifetime warranty, and that's a big exclusion. If it's not vented to current code, and it's not a way out for them, like it actually does degrade the life. It'll make it look like it's worn out early when really the last roofer just didn't think about it. Ventilation is typically measured in NFA, which is not helpful, but that's net free area. So for every 150 square feet of attic floor space, 1 square foot of NFA. net free area. You convert that to square inches because all the products are in square inches. So a ridge vent might be 16 square inches per lineal foot of NFA, or 18 square inches. It depends on the product. The minimum may be 1 in 300 for a single family home if it's exactly balanced intake and exhaust. So it's not that much more work to just beef up the ventilation to International Building Code, IBC, versus IRC, International Residential Code. Let's talk about why this may be often overlooked. So if you're a salesman, right? You're not a roofer, you don't own a company, you're just trying to get paid when you go out and see somebody. The more things that you find that add cost or complexity to the job, the more you might have questions and the higher the price. Well, it's much easier to sell a job by telling you what you want to hear, keeping it simple. Yes, thank you very much. Here's a great price. You don't need to worry about any of that other stuff, right? I'll just put it back the way it was. New shingles, you're good to go. Great price, great price, great price. All right, well, fine. Maybe that's the right fit, but our approach is a little bit different. We want you to know what you should do, what the consequences are for not doing it, and why, if our cost is higher than somebody else's, like this is a good example of why it's different, because we're putting more thought into it, we're bringing it up to what it should be so that you're actually getting what you paid for. So without going in the attic, what are some ways that you could tell that maybe there are some issues with the attic ventilation? Okay, so if you've got a multi-story house, if in the summer the upstairs is like unbearably hot or ridiculously hot, like it's 70 degrees outside, but inside upstairs it's 80, you might have a ventilation problem. Another thing is when you're outside and you look at the roof from the street, if you see, the roof deck is kind of wavy, probably a condensation problem. Like the roof deck is getting saturated and it's starting to sort of deteriorate and maybe crumble and collapse. If you walk on it, and you don't need to do that, but if you walk on it, it's starting to feel a little bit spongy, bad sign. If you're in your house and you look up and you've got, drywall, but you see like every 2 feet, you see a little black ghost stripe. That probably is mold in the attic. So again, ventilation problem. So those are 3 quick ways that you could tell without too much trouble that there may be a problem. One of the big things, and a test for your roofing company, anybody that you're interviewing for the job, is they need to look in the attic, right? And not just like open the hatch and prairie dog it, like they need to get in there and see, is there anything going wrong? If they just do a flyby, well, I think you know what you're going to get. If you have somebody who's meticulous, cares about the details, looks for problems, and gives you a thorough recommendation like we do, then you should get a much better result and closer to what you were expecting. You got to get in the attic, you got to find if there's blockages. You got to find if there's mold. You got to find out if the existing vents are even working. So what we have is little smoke testers. So we can like smoke the thing and see if the air goes in or if it just says drifts away. If it drifts away, we got a problem. Good to know though. Like if you don't really look, well, it's not your job. That's why you're interviewing a professional. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, then you're my kind of guy. So let's get you scheduled. You can either fill out the form on the website, you can give us a call, you can keep learning at the Learning Center. But if you have an issue with your attic ventilation, we would love to look. So give us a call, we'll come out and get you taken care of. Thank you for watching. I hope you feel better informed, and together we can nail it.